Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's DJ here. Thank you for joining. VU Dawson, I'm very well, thank you. Nice to see you here on this channel. You're welcome. Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, Napi, Trikanth, Robert. Good morning, Helmut, Henrik. What a great turnout. Thank you very much for joining. It's Friday morning here. The sun is shining, so I'll put the blinds down. I've got a different setup actually. I'll explain a little bit shortly. So just like on Saturday, which I'll explain as well, I'm doing things. I've no idea what I'm doing, and I'm sort of change things all the time. So everything is always seems to be new. I'm looking at the camera here. Hello. But I've also now mounted, I'm going to show you a picture of it in a minute, mounted a TV on the wall that I normally will have my Kanban style board for my tasks and everything, and my calendar and things. But I've also now got the Twitch dashboard with the chat up there, so I can see the dashboard, because I've only got one screen now and I'm doing it slightly differently. So we'll see how we go. It's great to see you. We've got, we're going to talk about, I've just seen Henrik on the channel, and we're going to talk a little bit about actions and functions today. But we'll come to that maybe in the second half of this live stream, this hour. There's all sorts of things to talk about. So let me switch. I've got my coffee here. Let me switch to with a keyboard shortcut, and I should be able to see it actually switch over there to the main scene. So you should see my desktop. Yes, I think that looks okay. Let me just switch. Yeah, I can see it. Yep. So this is a picture I took this morning, where I've got actually the thing that's on the screen at the back is slightly different now. I've got the sort of the Twitch dashboard with the chat and the video preview and the stream stats right now. Oh gosh, I've got 297 followers. My goodness me. Let's see if we can make that 300 in the next few weeks. So thank you everybody for following. Hey, good morning, Fred. Good morning. Nice to see you. Yeah, we're just talking about my setup, which is slightly different. You can see the screen on this picture here. That's my fairly new monitor. So that's that. So that's what I'm. So if I keep looking up, please ignore the two cables there going into the back of the TV. That's sellotape at the moment, which I'm going to fix with some cable bindings when I get them. So that is that. What else have we got? Oh yes. So last Saturday, I was very lucky to attend an awesome event in Oslo, SAP Inside Track Oslo, and I just wanted to let you know. And I'm sure I know Ronnie is. Yes, it is just like a controller. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure Ronnie will post the URLs to these things here. Thank you very much. SIT Oslo Sessions 2019. I knew you'd have that bit.ly link ready, Ronnie. So these are the recordings of the sessions that were live streamed at the time. So if you haven't had a chance to go and check these recordings out, please do. There's some awesome sessions by Paul and Sebastian and Seaman and Stein and Marlin. And I did a couple of sessions as well. Really, really good. So thank you, Ronnie, for inviting us, and also thank you to Christian for doing all the live streaming technical things. So that's that. There's also an announcement, a very, very recent announcement as of yesterday, or the blog post was announced yesterday. It's been coming for a while. The SAP Champions. I think we have at least one SAP champion in the room, as it were, in the stream. Napit, congratulations on being recognised as an SAP champion. Really, really cool. Here's a blog post from Kati. I'm sure you can find it on the community SAP community blog system. And in fact, there's Nabit there. There's our friend Nabit, and we've got other folks. I think some of these folks have paid a visit to the channel as well. So that's really cool. So that's being headed up by Kati with Thomas and Craig's blessing. And there's a list of the SAP Champions. There's a list of the SAP Champions on this page here. So go there as well. And of course, if we don't get all the URLs in the chat right now, when I finally get around to annotating this one, I've got a few to catch up on. I'll put all these links in the annotation blog post as well. So yeah, there we go. There's really cool. We got Phil, we got Michelle, Christian, Jakob, Johan, and so on. Loads of really awesome folks there. So yeah, that's really cool. And there was also a discussion on the SAP Champions a short while ago, back in June. So if you haven't checked it out, this podcast episode on SAP Coffee Corner Radio, I've just realised I've got the wrong mug. I've got this really normal IKEA mug, which is quite nice, but it's not the SAP Coffee Corner Radio mug that I normally have. So apologies to Simon and Jakob, and now also Martin. Welcome, Martin, as a new podcast interviewer. Is that what you call it? Podcast host, of course. So there's the podcast on SAP Champions. I just wanted to remind folks there's an awesome list of, a curated list of live coders on Twitch, and that is at twitch.tv/team/livecoders. I'm very honoured to be on there, but there's all sorts of fascinating folks doing equally fascinating things. I was just earlier this morning, watching something on JavaScript and IoT and small devices. Really, really cool. Where was that? The user ID, I can't find. The user ID is Node Botanist. It's in here. There we go. Node Botanist. Awesome. Really, really interesting. Hacking around with hardware and stuff. Nappy, that may appeal to you, for example. Anyway, that's that. My colleague and friend Ivan, who's got this video series on YouTube, he's recently published a new video, HANA database in the cloud, creating some messing around with HANA and CDS artifacts in Cloud Foundry. So check that out as well. That's this one here. I'm going to start the video there. Stop. I'll just close that. There we go. I just wanted to show this. Ronnie put together this. I don't know, Ronnie. You must have this sort of extra part in your brain that generates these animated GIFs and pictures and things. It's awesome. I just love this. And Ronnie makes an interesting point as well, in that maybe we should move away from the well, Ronnie, you say bookstore, but there's something I want to point out in a second. Move away from the bookshop and go and have a look at the space travel sample data set that was used in SAP TechEd last year. That's this thing here that's linked here. But I just love this video, this animated GIF. I think I might have to have this on a t-shirt. It's about time I ordered another t-shirt. So if you don't mind, Ronnie, I think I might do that. And yeah, Ronnie and I have been chatting about hands-on SAP Dev merchandise, which basically means we'll do some designs, put hands-on SAP Dev on do it on a spreadshirt, and I've no idea whether any profit will be made, but of course any profit that is made will go to charity. It doesn't come to me because I don't want it, and also it's not right for me to have it being an SAP employee, so that will go to charity. So yeah, so watch this space. So yeah, so let me just catch up. Yes, SAP Inside Track Oslo. Rock Nappy, I think you were watching from afar, right? Robert, you managed well at the end of your session, did you? Yes, thank you, Ronnie, for dropping right in it, although I had sort of thought, it would be really cool to do some annotations, so Ronnie really nicely gave me a bit more time to do some annotation stuff, even though it wasn't really prepared. As you saw from the fact that I just couldn't remember any of the annotation names, I think I was saying select options instead of selection items. I still can't remember it now. And so on. What else? Yes, so congratulations again, Nabheat. Thanks for posting the link, Ronnie, again. Yeah, all the links, tomato, potato. What was that in reference to? But anyway, good morning, John. Anyway, yeah, let's get started. I was looking into actions and functions in OData, and I ended up reading a lot of the actual OData official specification, which I'll share some with you, because it's really fascinating, and the change between what we know and love, maybe, well, know and tolerate, not love. I always maintain that function imports are this carbuncle, this sort of ugly thing on the side of an otherwise beautifully RESTful protocol, which is OData. But anyway, we'll come to that shortly. We'll have a look at that. And sorry, I'm just completely distracted by this GIF. I'm going to get rid of it. It's brilliant. So Bookstore. Yes, Bookstore Bookshop. That's what it was in relation to. Thank you, Ronnie. No, what the thing is, there's all sorts of work going on inside of SAP, putting together a megaton, I almost said the swear word version of that, a file system check ton worth of sample data sets, and it's an expansion of Bookshop. What I really like about Bookshop is it's really simple, and we don't have to think about, okay, well, what entities are what, and what are the relationships and everything. And the space travel thing is really cool, but it's quite complex. I have to think hard about it. So, hi, Hakur, welcome, Hakur. So, space travel is good, but I think for this sort of thing, when we haven't got much time, I do like the Bookshop, because we all know what it is, and then anything we want to talk about is just that extra bit on top. That said, what we will be seeing real soon now, trademark, is a bookstore, which is basically a bookshop on acid, with reviews, with ratings, with customers, with orders, with order items, and so it's a bit of quite a large expanded view of that whole thing, of that whole sort of bookshop idea. So I'm going to stick with Bookshop for now. Also because it's really easy to generate a books and authors thing from CDS init. Anyway, I want to get started with something that our hands-on SAP Dev live stream friend and colleague Pierre Dominique, who can't be with us because Twitch is blocked where he's working, which is a real shame. It did get me thinking, shall we carry on with Twitch? Shall we go to YouTube? Will YouTube be blocked? When I first started looking into live streaming, I did consider, of course, live streaming to YouTube, but the facilities that Twitch as a platform offered to me as a potential live streamer were overwhelmingly attractive, so I went with Twitch. But that doesn't mean to say that we can't or shouldn't switch at some stage, although with all of you lot would have to move over and start following on YouTube, which of course is not that difficult. But anyway, Pierre, as I say in TV, he can't be with us today, but he asked a really interesting question. But before we go into that, I see that Hakur has got a question here. I hope I don't bother you asking, but what's the purpose of SAP? I'm currently a data scientist student. Around Christmas, we were working with SAP for the first time. Ooh, very exciting. SAP for Christmas. So SAP, we had this question last live stream as well, and a lot of folks on the channel helped out, which I'm sure you'll help out again. But SAP enterprise software, everything from on-premise all the way through platform as a service. Cloud, we have a cloud platform, a sort of for extending and building business services and business applications and solutions, and also software as a service as well. In a nutshell, SAP software runs the world's business. I think that's, I'm going to say that anyway. I think it's more or less true, with certain provisos and so on. But 70% of the world's cars, chocolate, all these stats that people roll out are true. Beer are all manufactured using processes run by SAP. Anyway, so that's that. So what's that? Oh yes, Robert. Using OBS, you can broadcast simultaneously. Interesting. You can broadcast simultaneously. That's something to look into. Thank you, Robert. Yeah. will my laptop melt? It's currently under the desk and I can hear the fan going as well. But anyway, so by the way, just in case you're interested, you may not be, but I'm going to tell you anyway, I'm running a new window manager. The Aqua window manager stroke desktop from macOS is still there behind the scenes, but I'm running a window manager called Chunk WM. I know that Christian Drum was interested in tiling window managers, and I think he's started to use Amethyst. I'm a big fan of the Linux or Unix generally, and Linux operating system and Linux desktop, but of course with this work allocated laptop, which is great. It's nice to have such a powerful laptop, a MacBook. I don't quite get the experience that I want, but I've suddenly found that you can run an extra window manager on top with a hotkey manager as well, so that I can sort of have a very similar experience to what I was looking for. So that's what this thing is here. So I'm currently running this particular window in focus mode. I'll go back to sort of full screen. Why not? So this is a question. I wanted to just go through this because I've got something set up as well. Let me just bring up a new terminal, and so there we go. Here's the window manager in action. Let's just go to projects, live stream episode 34. Oh, in fact, I've got a thing already set up in my Tmux. There we go. So I've got a bookshop. What's going on? Let's see the bookshop. Oh! Now I got a notification, but it's not appearing on the. Oh, of course, it's not appearing on. Oh, maybe it'll appear in there in a minute. It's not appearing on the screen, but it'll appear soon, hopefully. I've got this bookshop. Has my video frozen? What's going on? Let's just check. Seems all right. All okay. Thanks, Napheat. So it's just the video preview maybe that's frozen. So please let me know, Napheat, in another couple of minutes that everything is still okay. Thanks for letting me know. So you should be able to see on my screen now, because I can't see that anymore. You should be able to see on my screen now a terminal on the left-hand side and the browser on the right-hand side. Thanks, Coral. That's really cool. Thank you for following, Coral. Thank you. And thank you also to Christian and Napheat. Okay, so we've got this bookshop as normal. Okay, nothing untoward there. We've got the schema, and we've got our service. Now, Pierre asked, is it possible to count the number of associated entities using CDS? And again, in a really nice way, because it was easy to understand, he gave an example in the context of Bookshop. So I wanted to go through what I did to explain a little bit more about the JavaScript that I wrote, and then also show Pierre's awesome alternative solution, because of course there's more than one way to do it. Tim Toady, an acronym from the Perl community, actually. So he was trying this sort of core computed idea, and of course he was definitely on the right track. Check out. Yes. Thank you, Ronnie, for sharing with Hako the tutorials. Yep, a lot of great tutorials there to get started. And yeah, the SAP community in general is something you probably want to have a look at if you want to start getting into SAP before Christmas. So yeah, definitely. So what are we doing? Yes. So what Pierre was asking was how do we count? And I wrote this blog post as an answer. So let's just have a quick look at that and really explain. I want to explain very briefly. There we go. What we've got. So we've got our definitions at the persistence layer, at the schema level, and then what I did was to add or extend the author's entity using this as select from, and in there I was including all of the properties within my.authors from here. So basically the ID, the name, and the books association. And then I was adding on the fly a computed property. As you probably saw, Pierre put in this annotation at core.computed, although that actually wasn't required. Cat works it out that it's computed and actually generates the right annotations on our behalf. So that was that. So we got this new number of books property, and currently I've defined it as null, as in don't bother doing anything with it for now at this level, at this service definition level. Okay, but then, and that's what we've got here, but then what we have a chance to do is to intercept the request, any request coming in for authors with an event hook, and do some extra processing. And that's what this thing down here is. I'm not going to go through all of the blog post, but that's what this thing down here is. And what I wanted to do very briefly is add this code and then sort of debug it and play around with it just to see what's going on. So why don't we? I've got the code. Yeah, I've got the code here. What do I want to do? I want to go across to here, and why don't we start up with npm? We'll do npx for now. Npx nodemon, and we don't need the deploy, do we? But oh no, we're in the wrong directory. Bookshop. There we go. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, perfect. So now we should be able to go across to here, localhost 4000, and Loca came up with Shakira. Wow, weird. And we can see right now, for example, that the authors entity set shows us the ID and the name. Of course, it's not going to show us the navigation property books unless we ask for it. We ask for it like $expand equals books, for example. There's the books. But let's go back again. And that we've got this number of books property, okay, which is quite cool. And at the moment it's null because we're not doing anything with it. So why don't we now do something with it, which is what, of course, this whole blog post was about. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just move this separately to here. There we go. And we'll add, let's just make this a little bit smaller. We'll add, by the way, for those watching the replay of my technical session at SAP Inside Oslo, you'll realize that I was having a few difficulties with the MacBook keyboard because I hate it and it's the wrong layout. But now I've got my my proper keyboard, my external mechanical keyboard, an AND Pro 2. It's so much better. And all the keys are in the right place. There's no stupid tab bar thing, whatever it's called, touch bar. So anyway, mini rant over. I'm going to go up here and go into, let's open service.cds. There we go. So that's what we've got. And now what I'll add is service.js. We'll add the, service.js. There we go. Service.js. There we go. Fine. Okay. So module.exports equals it receives a server object. Okay. And what we do here is we use destructuring to grab the books object from the list of entities that the server object has available for us. And then we can say, we can use this event hook server after we've done a read request, after the read request has been processed for the author's entity. What we can do is have a function that will be called at this particular hook, and that function expects to receive the data that's already been retrieved in the standard processing of a read request for authors, because of course this is a server after the after the request has been sort of mostly processed before it goes back out as a response though. But we also get as a second parameter the original request, which we need to get hold of something we want to use for running a SQL query. So there's the function definition. Excuse me, I don't know why coffee's making me burp. In fact, I'll stick all this in here. In fact, why don't I do this? Just serve service.js. There we go. That'll do. We've got that there. So rather than you watch me type it in, there we go. It's there. Okay, so now let me explain this, and we'll debug it. Okay, because that's really what I wanted to do. So what we're doing, explain first, is we get the authors and we map over those authors, the authors that have been returned or given to us by the actual standard processing, and we decorate this this function, this callback function, to map. Map being a function that takes a function. With this async, which basically means that this is running asynchronous, which allows us to use the await to wait for another asynchronous process, which is this cds.transaction run. Okay, and what we can do is we can use the request object that we get to build a transaction within which we can execute some CQL, some CDS. Is it CDS or core query language? CDS query language. Okay, which is basically, it looks like SQL. I mean, you can actually write SQL and then have that, sort of have that parsed and interpreted. But one of the ideas of this is that it has this Fluent API. If you've not looked at what Fluent APIs are all about, it's really interesting. It's nothing new. It's not anything that's been invented here. It's been around for a long time. But a Fluent API is a Fluent API concept is also very strongly present in the SAP Cloud SDK, for example. And the whole idea is that you have a function call, and then you have a subsequent function call and a subsequent function call, and you have this chain of things that are happening that are processing. It's like a process chain. And also, it's fluent because it sort of flows fluid, and you can sort of read it write it as almost as you read it. So basically, this is like selecting from, of course, is a function on the select object, but select dot from books, and books is this thing here, which we've retrieved currently, yeah. And then we can have a where clause, and the where clause, again, using CQL, you can express that with an object where the author ID of the book entity, which is this generated sort of thing from the managed association, is the value of that is the same as the value of the ID of the actual author object, which is this one here, right? So that gives us basically a set of publications which we can then look at the length of. Now, Pierre came up with an absolutely fantastic way of doing that using SQL that gets pushed down to the persistence layer, of course. And that's one way of doing it, which is a really nice way. But the reason I did it this way is because I wanted to explore and share that exploration of how you can actually do some useful stuff inside of a callback in this sort of event hook context. So we've saved that. I see that's been relaunched. So why don't we go across to here and just refresh? There we go. We get, let me make that a bit bigger. We get number of books for Douglas Adams 3, number of books for, well, in fact, why don't we do this, right? So we say expand equals books, and we can sort of double check that. Let's make that, let's expand that to fill its parent as well. This is sort of a tiling window manager thing. This is specifically, if you're interested, chunk WM is very similar to the tiling manager called BSPWM, BSP standing for binary space partition. Really, really fascinating subject. But anyway, let's not go there right now. So yeah, there's 3 books from Douglas Adams. There's 1 book from Emily Bronte. There's 1 book from Charlotte, her sister, which Charlotte spelt wrong, I've just noticed. But anyway, Edgar Allan Poe's got 2 books and so on. So that's really cool. So what I wanted to do as well is avoid using VS Code, not because I don't want to use VS Code, because VS Code's awesome. And the debugging facilities in VS Code are also awesome. And of course, as you know, when you generate a CDS project or a cat project with the CDS in it, you get this .VS Code hidden directory with various launch configurations that you can use and then start debugging and so on. However, I do like to use. Okay, Fred, well, thanks for dropping in. We're just about to dive into debugging outside of VS Code. Using my favorite debugging tool, which I'm sure you can guess is the Chrome Developer Tools. I've just moved my, I've just sat up. Oh, you can still see my head. Yes, that's good. Oh, the video preview has now caught up with me. Okay, that's really cool. So what I wanted to do is try and debug that. It's only, it's 8:30, so I want to sort of, the last 5 minutes, then we'll start looking at the actions and functions. So there's that. So if I go back to here, and go down here. Now, what you can do, because basically all this stuff that's running right now, let's just make that slightly bigger, is a node process. So you can use node inspect, and then it's break on the inspect will turn on the inspector, and inspect break will turn on the inspector and stop processing, and as in halt debug at a breakpoint immediately. So let's do that so we can sort of take a breath before we continue. But what are we debugging? Okay, but if you think about it, if I'm going to Control C that for a second, what we're actually doing is CDS run. So if we have a look, which CDS, it's in fact if we say a file which CDS, we can see it's a node script. Okay, so it's a user bin env node script text executable ASCII. So basically it's JavaScript, it's node, it's all ready for debugging. So theoretically we should be able to run CDS, not by typing CDS, but by typing node CDS, where we have the full path, which is running that script, and debug it, and then jump on and hopefully find a debugging statement, which we're about to enter in here, to stop the processing in this serve.after callback. I hope that makes sense. Let's try it and see. Maybe it's easier if we do it. So in fact, say node inspect break which CDS. So this is the result of saying which CDS, which is the fully qualified path to the CDS executable, the node script. And the argument we want to pass to CDS, of course, is run. So I think that should work. Okay, so debugger listening on this WebSocket. Now, theoretically, if I go over here, and let's go down here, make that a little bit bigger, actually, and it's a bit smaller again, actually, smaller, there we go. If I go down here and say Chrome inspect, there we go. We have this inspection target. Let me just swap these around. There we go. We have this inspection target, which we can have a look at, hopefully. Okay, so let's just swap it back again. There we go. Now, let's have a look at that. Let's make that just slightly bigger for a second. Oh, what happened there? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? DevTools. Oh, there it is. Ah, it's just because it's not big enough. It's because I've changed my screen resolution as well, so you can see it better here. But let's make this, in fact, why don't we put that across there? There we go. That's much better. That's much better. And we'll go across to here and minimize that for a second. Okay, perfect. So now, here's our inspector. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? So we can do all sorts of things. We can see we're inside cds.js, and we can run that, and hopefully, yeah, there we go, connected to data source. There we go. Now we could put a breakpoint here, I think. And now if we run that, oh my goodness, yes. So we can now debug in complete comfort using the dev tools, because I do find the debug console in VS Code slightly restrictive because you've only got one line. I don't know what, just feels a little bit different. So we can say, for example, well, what's in the authors? Ooh, authors is not, oh, okay, yeah, so I'm inside of this thing here. Let's just put that there and just continue, and let's run it again actually. There we go. Let's get rid of that one and continue. There we go. Let's just try that again. There we go. So now, yeah, I do find this a lot easier. So we can obviously see that, we can expand that, but of course we get all this wonderful goodness, console.table authors. And we can see all sorts of information about that sort of stuff there. Yeah, okay, so that's what I wanted to show you there. You've used this debug hybrid Ionic apps. Did not know it worked here also. Yes, so as soon as I can get to something familiar and comfortable, i.e. the Chrome developer tools, then everything is wonderful, right? So I do think this is a really nice way of debugging. So yeah, so in fact, why don't we just jump down to here and have a look at that. And so now we've got publications for which author? We've got 3 publications. We can do all sorts of different things. And yeah, so we can see this Fluent API. You can sort of start to explore it, sort of manually from the command line. So anyway, that's that. Let's just run that. Oh, there we go. We're still in a got a debug a breakpoint there. Okay, fine. So that is that. Now, I wanted to get on and start to talk about actions and functions. So who knows? Oh, it seems like what's deprecated. In regards to the window manager, if you recall, looking back, I said it was chunk WM. Yes. So exactly. So thank you, Ronnie, for pointing this out. Chunk WM has been sort of parked by the author. The author, Ronnie, if I'm not mistaken, the author is from Norway. Esmond is called, I think. That's the person, Koyaki. That's Esmond somebody. Really awesome developer. And Chunk WM has been, development has stopped and he's started working on Yabai. However, in order to use Yabai, you have to turn off certain security features in macOS, which I don't really want to do on this work laptop. It's not my laptop, so and of course I connect to the corporate VPN sometimes, so I want to be a bit conscientious and not do that. Chunk WM works beautifully. Esmond V can, yeah. SIP, yes, exactly. You have to turn off SIP or something to do with that. I don't even know what SIP is, but I don't want to do that on this machine. Chunk WM works beautifully, along with this simple hotkey daemon, SKHD. So yeah, check it out. System integrity protection. That's what it is, exactly. So I don't want to make it not protected, especially when it comes to system integrity, right? So I'm sure it's fine, but I just, anyway. So anyway, where were we? Actions and functions. Yes. So there is a, let's just get rid of that. There we go. Let's do that. There is somewhere, where was it? I did find it this morning actually. Services, there we go. Actions and functions, services. In the documentation that exists right now, and there's more documentation coming, we have this section, actions and functions. So this is what I started looking at, because I've not really played around much with actions and functions in CAP with CDS at all. And so I was curious as to what they were and whether functions were the same as, or at least related to, what probably many of us know from OData v2 as function imports, and it turns out they are, of course. So basically, I've looked into it, and in fact, where did I? OData, actions, functions. I'd looked at that, but there is the where is it? OData v4 specification protocol. Here we go. I think this is it. This is it. This is it here. Look, ooh, that's big. Looks completely scary. Let's get rid of that as well. It looks completely scary, and it sort of is a little bit dry, but of course it has to because it's a specification. However, actions, there we go, action, functions, extensibility, actions, functions, there we go, operations. In section 11.5, it starts talking about actions and functions, invoking actions. I'm thinking, why the heck are these two things different? They feel the same. So, long story short, in OData v2, we had these things called function imports, right? And I think I wrote down where there was an example. Oh, yes, there we go. Where there's an example previous or prior to OData v4 of a function import. Because of course, you know, we can actually implement function imports ourselves. They're also called, of course, they're also called what they call service. What they call? I wrote it down as well. Service something. Oh, service operations. So some people might know these as service operations. Some people might know them as function imports. And if we have a look at services. .odata, but not v4, but v3. Where was it? In oh yes, here we go. v3. In fact, why don't we just go to services.odata.org first of all, and the full access service, as in read write, we can see is v3, and v3 is just a small step up from v2. Oh, sorry. Yawn. Osmund VCAN. Thank you, Ronnie. Like the O in Ronnie. Ronnie. Is that how you pronounce your name? Ronnie. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's cool. So OData v3, we're looking at v3 because it's similar to v2. And if we look at the metadata, we can see this function import here. So the function import is defined inside the entity container, which is basically, you know, the packet of things that you get in this service. You know, prior to that, we've got all the actual definitions of the entity types and the complex types and so on. By the way, when I was looking at this, I found this thing called singleton, which is an amazingly new thing to me. Anyway, and a function import is defined as almost like this orthogonal way of making a call to an OData service. So of course, one of the beautiful things to me about OData is that it is RESTful in the sense that the operations that you can carry out are CRUD plus Q, create, read, update, delete, and querying, whereas query is like a bit like a read. And they map very nicely onto the HTTP methods of similar names, so get, put, post, delete, patch, etc. Right? But there are some circumstances, this is the way the theory goes, there are some circumstances where either you can't, from the way your data model is set up, and you know, the question is, well, why did you set your data model up that way? You can't easily express an operation that fits into the sort of the more RESTful CRUD plus Q way of thinking about things. And here's an example: get products by rating, and there are, I mean, I suppose this example you could almost think you could probably do this with a combination of expands or certainly with $filters, the system query operation filter, but that's beside the point. This is a nice simple example. And so this is a bam, go and get me this. And as you can see here, the function import defines the name of the actual thing that you call, defines also what you get back, which is a collection of, an array of, an entity set of type product, which makes sense because you're getting products. And the method is get. And if we also look for the elsewhere, we can see there's another function import, discount, right? Let me highlight that there like that instead. Now, discount is, or in fact, here's an even more exciting and dangerous one, increased salaries. Already that name tells us that this is going to do some destruction, or not destruction. This is going to have a side effect, an observable side effect. Okay, so a function can be sort of read-only, and a function can be, or function import in V2 and V3 can have side effects. And in fact, if we continue looking there, I think, that's it. There's the only three there. So that's what the definition of a function import was in V2, like a system. What's it called again? A system operation. A service operation. Yes, a service operation. Now with V4, they've tidied things up into a couple of things, actions and functions. So if we have a look at, there's an example here, and once we'll have a look at this example here, and then we'll start hacking around and try and build our first function with cap. So if we have a look, I remember there was this trip pin. Was it? There is somewhere. I'm sure it was here. I thought it was. Wait a minute. OData V. Was it in here? There's a really nice OData. That's big as well. A really nice OData service that I can't find right now. Trip. Oh well, doesn't really matter. That had examples of actions and functions. Now, the difference between an action and the similarities between an actions and functions is that they're both these orthogonal style of calls that you can make on an OData service. Those calls may or may not have specific things to do with entity types that you've defined or complex types. You could just have a little calculator, send two numbers and get the result of adding those two numbers together back again. Maybe we'll do that. And the difference between a function and an action, and this is where I think I see the change between OData versions prior to V4 and V4, is that functions must return some data, okay, and must not have any observable side effects. So basically, functions are read-only things that give data back. Actions may have observable side effects. So in that previous example that we saw, increased salaries, you can't implement that as a function in OData V4 because a function must not have any side effects. And of course, changing some data in the back end is a hugely observable side effect. So that would be done by an action, okay? And an action may return nothing. Now, what does that mean? That means basically you get a response, an HTTP response, but there's nothing in the body. And you can, I'm sure we've all seen responses like that. When you do a post to a collection, you get a 201 created, don't you? A 201 HTTP status code 201 created, and you get the location in a header in the response, but no body, with the URL of that new resource. Okay, it's beautifully embracing the whole HTTP as an application protocol thing. So an action can produce a response with no body. But it might return something. So there's the difference. But there's also, for both functions and actions, they can be either. Well, I'm going to use this word from object orientation, object-oriented programming, which I'm not a fan of, but I'm going to use the term anyway. You can have a function or an action as a static function or action that's not related or bound to any particular entity, or you can have functions or actions that are bound to certain entities. Okay, we'll dig into that a little bit more, maybe next time actually, because it's really fascinating. So anyway, that's a lot of talk. Why don't we try and create, and we'll just add it to our thing here. Why don't we try and create a simple function? So let's just defocus this here. Let's bring back a terminal window. Tmux attach. Oh, there we go. In fact, have I still got that? What am I doing here? Let's just quit that. I've probably got the terminal here somewhere. Oh, not that one. No. There we go. The futurist terminal. That one. There we go. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Notice as well from the Chrome Developer Tools console, we get the output in here as well, which is, I'm pointing out, we get the output in here, which is really cool. So anyway, let's just kill that and go back up here and make that a bit smaller. Okay, what we need to do is to define, let's make that a little bit bigger again, is to define a function. And we'll define the function as a static function. And we define it with a function keyword. We define actions with the action keyword. But we'll do this really simple thing first of all. And we'll call the function, let's do this calculator thing, calc. Okay. And what you then define is what comes in. So let's have A integer B. Well, actually, let's not have any input parameters first of all. We've got time. Returns integer. That'll do. Let's not try and be clever for now. Let's just have that. So this is different to a definition of an entity. And all we need to do here, theoretically, let's go down here and npx, run that again. Is that going to start? Come on. What's my machine doing? There we go. We're going to say here serve.on calc. Simple as that. And I'm going to define it the simplest function. I have no idea whether this will work or not. The simplest function that could possibly work to return a value. So now let's go across to here and look at this, the definition of the metadata first of all for the catalog service. Now I'm trying to use the Vimium a bit more as well. Metadata. Have we got? Yes, we've now got this definition of a function import. Okay, it's called calc and it points to a function called catalog service.calc. So when we look for that, we see now we have a definition a bit further down. Okay, and also when you look at this generated EDMX, the entity container is at the top and all the different entity types and everything else is at the bottom. The other OData metadata was the other way around. But basically what we're seeing here is that this entity container has got an entity set, or two entity sets, an author's entity set and a book's entity set, and it's also got a function import. And this below it is where all these individual things are defined. The entity type on which this entity set is based, and then the entity type here on which this entity set is based. And then we've got now, which is new for V4, I'm pretty sure, new for V4. So I've just seen what Helmut's saying here. Of course, you know what I said about functional programming or OO is very controversial, and of course, lots of people will have lots of strong opinions and for very valid reasons. So I can completely see where you're coming from there, Helmut. But yeah, I have a different opinion. But anyway, maybe we'll have some sort of live stream coffee corner, or maybe a discussion on the Coffee Corner podcast or something, Coffee Corner radio podcast about that. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to try and avoid going down that rabbit hole because it's a really deep one. So anyway, here's a definition of this function, and as you can see here, we've defined it up here as a peer of these entities within catalog service. That's why we see that isBound equals false. We'll talk about composable next time, and we can see also that it has an integer as a return type. So that's quite cool. So how do we call it? Let's actually try and call it catalog. What's it called? Calc, and we specify there. There we go, 42. So that's pretty nice, right? But what we'll do is, as a final thing, because I've just realised the time is just going really fast, we can say, for example, A integer, B integer, and why don't we say here, let's define a type. Oops, sorry, not there. I've just, of course, that's what I want to do. Here, A integer, B integer, there we go. Why don't we do that? And we can say here as well, we can define a type my results, value, sum is an integer, and a color is a string. So we can define sort of types on the fly here, and we can say returns my results. Okay. Yeah, we can return a collection of with array of, for example, but we won't do that. Let's just leave that there and then go and fix this. Let's also undo that bit. That's going to take A and B, I guess. And what we want to return is actually an object, which we have to wrap in brackets there. An object, what we said here? I'm just making this up. Sum A plus B. I have no idea if this will work or not. Color green. Is that enough brackets? It's not enough brackets. There we go. No, yes, working. Sorry. So now let us go and say 1 plus 2. Ooh. 1 plus 2 calc. Let's just have a look at. Let's have a look at the metadata. Number of books. Oh, that's probably where's the function? There we go. The function A, and there, right at the bottom. Right at the bottom. There we go. The function name calc. Parameter A. Oh, of course. What am I doing? What am I doing? Let's go there. Go E. Catalog. Calc. A. I think it's like that, isn't it? A1, B2. I can't remember. What am I doing? Sorry. Calc A1, B2. Almost. How do you call it? Very, very focused. Yes, it is. Otherwise, we'd be there. What am I doing now? I'm having a brain fail. A equals 1, B equals 2. Calc. What am I doing wrong? How do you define? Let's just go back here and go to the Oasis actions and functions, section 11. Functions. A equals 1. Yeah, there we go. No parameters. Here we go. Manager equals. Yeah, that should be all right. A equals. Tell you what. Let's do one at a time. Let's just build it up one at a time. A integer. My results. A integer that. There we go. Let's just get rid of that. A plus 2. A equals 1. Serialization of, serialization of some property failed. A plus 2. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Anyway, I've got to go. Sorry, Ronnie's got to go. It's 9 o'clock. Okay. Anyway, we will continue this. This is really annoying me. We will continue this on the next live stream, which will be next Friday. Thank you all so much for joining. That's a bombshell to drop it on, isn't it? To leave it on. Thanks so much for joining. What I will do is I will hack on this right now. I know people have got to go for meetings and everything. So I'll post this solution, which was obviously something stupid that I'm doing. The suspense, I know, the suspense. I'll post it on Twitter. And if it's anything longer, I'll probably write a little blog post, but I'm sure it's going to be really short. So thank you so much for joining. Have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on the next stream. Thanks very much. There we go.